Welcome back to Five Friday Feedback. Today we're talking about money fights and how they are rarely just about money. Usually there's some underlying issue when it comes to relationships and how money avoidance or money miscommunication is often the silent killer that ends up wrecking most marriages. Because as we know, 50% of marriages end in divorce. And unfortunately, out of that 50% of marriages that do end in divorce, one of the biggest reasons was around money.
And, oftentimes, when we talk about money, it's usually never about money, right? If you listen to Monday's podcast, which I recommend, it's a short one, it's a beautiful one, and it's informational. But we talk about, listen, we might have disagreements on where the money should go, but it's not the money that's the problem, it's the underlying issue. It's the direction, it's the understanding. What is money to you, right? And having these conversations are the bedrock of any great relationship. Communication, right? If you don't communicate, you're just going to have to fester and you're going to build resentment. And I love that analogy you gave last podcast, Chris, about rust. Could you give that to us one more time?
Yeah, I think I said something like rust is like, or resentment is like rust. It builds up slowly if you don't deal with it.
Yeah.
You got to get that CLR out. You got it. When it starts to become an issue, you have to deal with it then. Because if you let it all become an issue, like you let it all rust, at that point, it's too late. You can't do anything about it. You just have to scrap the whole thing. And when we're talking about a relationship, you're talking about your life partner. You don't want to get to the point where you just have to scrap the whole thing and restart over.
Yeah, you got that right. That sounds expensive. It sounds tedious. And let me tell you, I am not the type to go to bars and look for girlfriends or wives. So that being said, let's get right into today's episode. Thanks for being here, guys. So where should we start for this one, Chris?
I think the best place to start on this one is to just talk about how money is the silent killer of relationships. And it's not often the overspending that does it. It's not the underspending. It's just that two people are moving in different goals because they have different dreams, aspirations, fears, and trade-offs they're willing to make in order to make their goal happen. But since they're not communicating with one another, that's what builds the resentment. Both people in relationships feel that they're doing the right thing. There are very few people in this world that go into a relationship like, how badly can I screw over this other person? But since people don't communicate, it doesn't matter what your intention is because the other person's always going to perceive that you're doing the wrong thing. So in relationships, you're never going to get to a point where you're agreeing on everything. So what we need to do is we need to seek to understand each other so we can start to find that shared path.
I agree 100%. I mean, it's interesting because while one person in the relationship, right, they might want to go travel. Like, hey, I want to be adventurous. I want to see new things. I want to try new things. That's just who I am. And the other person in the relationship, maybe this is you, maybe you're the adventurous one. Maybe, they just want to say, I want to save for tomorrow. Money is security. I didn't grow up with a lot. So what I have is important to me and it was hard getting it. So I don't want to waste it frivolously. It's important to always remind yourself and understand that you chose your partner for a reason and they're not out to hurt you intentionally. That's just part of their character. I want to go be adventurous. I want to save. It's not like, oh, Chris, I know you want to save for some reason. We're married in this scenario. Don't ask me why. But Chris, you want to save, right? And I want to go adventurous. It's like, you hate me. You're anti-dom. You must hate me. It's like, no. Chris loves me. I love Chris. It's like, we got to keep the love at the foundation. Keep it forefront, right? Keep it right in front of you because you chose this person for a reason, right? I think that's why it's so important to have these money dates. I mean, we've done a full episodes on the past about the money date. And maybe that's something we need to revisit. But what goes on in a money date? Just like a Cliff Notes version, Chris, on how people can start to have these conversations and what even goes into having the conversation about money with your partner so that you guys can get on the same page.
I think at first it's just being open to having a conversation about money. It's first getting to the table and just sitting down and not accusing the other person, not attacking the other person, not making this a negative thing. Of course, in the past, most people who have had money conversations, it went poorly. Because most people don't come at it under the right spirit of attitude. They don't come at it in the place to try to seek and discover. They come trying to win an argument. trying to say, you screwed me over, you did this, you did that, you hate me because this is what I'm trying to do. And you're trying to actively resist me in what I'm trying to get without ever seeking to understand why is it that they did what they did. Because most people are trying to secure their future. They're trying to have adventure. They're trying to do all that they can. Most people in life are trying to live the best lives that they can and the best lives with their partners. So that money conversation needs to be done under the spirit of understanding and the spirit of growing together. So maybe at the beginning, before you even have that, you set an intention. Hey, I want to have a conversation about money. And at the end of it, I want us to both walk away feeling good about money for the first time in our lives, maybe. For us to feel like we are together on this goal against this thing. Because the hard part about it is when you're with your partner, and I use this analogy a lot with my clients. When you have a partner and you guys have a disagreement and you want that partner to change, that partner has the propensity to change. Obviously, in a relationship, your goal is not to change your partner, but at least that person does have the propensity to change at some point. But your relationship with money, you're hoping that at some point money will change. Money is this inanimate object that will never change. Money does not have the propensity to change. The only thing that you can do is change your relationship to it. The same way that you can change your relationship to your partner. It's not the problem that's the problem. It's the way that you're relating to the problem that's the problem. And once you realize that, you can begin to see like, oh, so I'm kind of the problem here. Yes, that we may be in a problem, but it's because I'm relating to the problem. You know, earlier on, there's a guy that I know who's quitting work or leaving work to go to a different job because he's having a baby. His wife finally got pregnant. They've been trying for a long time. And he was telling me about that. And I was like, wow, how crazy is it that like for you, you've been trying to have this baby, you're having this baby, and now like all these good things are happening because the way you're relating to having this baby is a positive thing. Where if somebody else might be saying, hey, I'm pregnant and having a baby, it's like, oh my God, this is such a bad thing. So it's not good or bad. It's just the way that you're relating to it that makes the difference. So take that analogy and take it to money. Do you mind, Dominic, if I teach you a little bit of philosophy on Buddhism, on the concept of no self?
Please.
So this is something that I kind of thought about as you were talking, actually. The Buddha talks about this concept, this insight of no self. And when I first heard it, I was like, what does that mean? Does that mean that like the self is an illusion, like that I'm not a real person, that I'm not like conscious? And that's what I thought it meant for a long time. But I've recently come to a new discovery of what I think that means. Is that if you actually witness yourself and you actually kind of meditate, study your own mind, you realize that who you are is constantly changing, constantly evolving. You're never a stagnant person. You're constantly changing and going through this flow. So the way this has been explained to me is think of a car. And in the car, there's all these different passengers. There's anger, disgust, loneliness is in the back crying. You know, there's sadness somewhere back there. And there's all these different characters in this car. So sometimes when your partner comes to you and they say, hey, I want you to talk about money, and anger pops up and anger grabs the wheel of the car and you start like freaking out. Like, why are you talking about that? Or maybe regret comes up and grabs the wheel of the car. And now you begin to identify with that feeling, thinking that I am that feeling, that I am angry, that I have regret about money, that I am nervous or anxious about money, rather than, oh, that person's just at the wheel right now. I am not it. I have it. It is a part of me. And that way, when you feel that anger, whatever that is, when you're having that money conversation with your partner, and maybe you need to take a break, get away from it for a little bit, you realize that you're not angry. Anger just has the wheel right now. It's kind of like that thing of Inside Out, of like, you know, they just come to the control board, they take over, but you're not that. You're not anger. You're not sadness. You're not jealousy. You're not greed. You're not envy. You're none of them. You're all of them simultaneously. And whoever happens to be at the wheel is you. So that concept of no self doesn't mean that you're not a conscious entity. It just means that if you witness yourself, if you witness consciousness arising, you realize that who you think you are is never stagnant. It's always moving, always evolving. And who you were just a second ago is not the person you are that's hearing me right now. That person is gone. And there's a new person that's going to be here a second later when I say these words.
Is it almost like you have to view yourself as like in a third person perspective?
I think that ability to detach is imperative when you're having difficult conversations. I know that I use it all the time. When I start to feel myself, maybe my wife will say something to me that frustrates me. And rather than identifying with the frustration, be like, I am frustrated, be like, oh, hey, frustration's here. Like, you know, and now I can be like, okay, why am I frustrated? Because the frustration isn't the problem. What my spouse said wasn't the problem, is that frustration took over and I have now identified with frustration. I have said that I am frustrated. And if you believe in this concept of no self, well, you aren't that. It's just a part of you. And you can choose to take it or leave it. So that's just something I was kind of thinking about as you were talking about when you have these difficult money conversations. The issue is when you attach to it. The issue is when you feel that whatever feeling I have is the correct feeling to have always and indefinitely, rather than being able to question yourself. Because most people, like, this is the first level, never have the ability to think that whatever emotion they're feeling, whatever they're thinking, whatever their first impulse is just an illusion. Like, it's not the real thing. Just because you feel it for the first thing, just because it comes to you so quickly, that doesn't mean that it's truth. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to question yourself, question everything in order to kind of transcend and be able to grow with other people, and more importantly, grow yourself.
Interesting. It kind of makes me think about affirmations for some reason. You know, in my journal, literally one of the first things in the journal is it's just like a four empty boxes that start with I am, and each day I fill it out. It's what I'm feeling. This is what I am, right? And it kind of makes me think like, okay, well, what's the difference between what I'm feeling and who I am? And like you said, it's like anger just has the wheel. But anger isn't all of it. Like, anger isn't the only emotion. There's multiple emotions that make up the car or the person, right? I love that analogy, though, that anger can take the wheel. And thankfully, I got one of those like limousines with like 50 rows. So the anger is like in the trunk. So they got to go through the trunk, go through like 50 rows just to get up here. But
if I may, there's one other thing that I always like with this car analogies. You can actually take it a different direction. Just like the self is made up of all of these different components, and all of it together makes up the self, makes up this concept of consciousness, of me being an individual person. It's the same thing with a car. If you look at a car, you take out the steering wheel and be like, is this a car? No. You take out the engine and goes, is this the car? No. Take out the seats, is this the car? The wheels? Nothing of a car is the car. Only by putting the car together is it a car. It's the same thing with your consciousness. The same thing with who you are as a person. Anger is not you. Sadness isn't you. None of them are you. All of it together is you. And it's always changing. It's always evolving, just like a car is. It's always changing, always evolving. It's always something different from day to day. You can't break it down to one thing. When you identify with that one thing, that's where the issue happens, where I am angry. No, that's like me taking off my left back tire of my car and being like, this is car. Like, this right here is car.
That sounds so funny. This is car. What are you, a caveman? It's like, no, this is tire. This is not car. I love it. I think that's, oh man, I love that. I love it. I don't know if you guys saw like and forgive me for swearing, but that shit-eating grin. When Chris was just like explaining it was like all clicking. I was like, oh, this is, yeah. I connect with this. I understand this. I recognize this. You know, and oftentimes sometimes it feels like you're not making any progress, right? And I'm not talking about the time when you're just living life, you're not focusing on getting better. I'm talking about the time where I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to get my anger under control, trying to get my anxiety under control, my every other emotion, right? And like you said, it's like you're the sum of your parts. When all of them are combined, that's who you are. And you can fix one thing or another, but it's almost like you're playing in a finite game versus an infinite game in a way. Like you'll never be there, but you'll be close for a while until you have to go back and refix things again in a way. I want to move on to our next part of the podcast, but before we do, Do you have any final thoughts on this one? Because honestly, this is such an important podcast. Divorce is expensive in more ways, financially, physically, in so many ways. So I want to make sure, is there any final thoughts you have for us today, Chris?
I'm really serious on just like set regular money check-ins. Have these conversations with your partner. Talk about what success actually looks like to you. Talk about your dreams, your goals, your fears, your aspirations, what trade-offs you're willing to make. If you choose to avoid having these hard money conversations now, you're only setting yourself up for bigger heartbreak down the road. So please make the hard choice today so you can have an easy life tomorrow, rather than doing what most people do, where they choose to make the easy life until things get really, really hard. And then everyone says, oh, I never saw it coming. It's because it's like that rust, and it built up and it built up and it built up, and now you can't clean it anymore. So please, I implore you, I get nothing out of it. Dominic gets nothing out of it. If you talk to your spouse or your partner or even yourself about your relationship with money and your relationship to what your goals actually are. Because once you can define them, once you know them, then at least you can tell when it's taking over, when it's at the wheel of the car.
Absolutely. With that being said, we're going to be moving on to one of my favorite parts of the week. We call this a 5 Friday feedback viewer mailbag. This is where you, yes, you in the comments, you in the video, you listening in the car, you can mail in, i.e. email, preferably, or go to our website, the Five Guys. Is it the Five Guys podcast.com? I always mess it up. No, I butcher it every time.
It's the fiveguys.com.
The fiveguys.com. Perfect. And if you want to email us, the Five Guys Video Podcast at gmail.com. That being said,
yes,
let's get right back to it. So this is where we read a letter from the community. We try and give our advice, give our help, give our knowledge, give our trials and tribulations to you, the viewer. And yes, let's get right into it. So the header of this one: I live in an inherited house I cannot afford. What a doozy. A lot of emotion tied up in this one. We can already sense it. Howdy, Chris. Howdy, Dom. Howdy. First off, love the show. You guys have a way. First of all, if you're going to start off, love greasing the wheels a little bit. Makes us feel pretty good. Love that. First off, love the show. You guys have a way of making heavy stuff feel lighter. And honestly, that's what convinced me to finally write in. Love that. I'm hoping you can help me right now, because I feel stuck in this weird limbo between honoring my family, trying to survive, and not totally losing my mind. Here's the story. About 3 years ago, my grandmother passed away. She was the kind of woman who could light up an entire room just by walking in. She was my rock, the one who always made sure there was a place for me. When she passed, she left the house to my mom. I lived there too, and even though it wasn't legally mine, it always felt like home. My mom and I split the bills. We weren't rich, but we made it work. Then, not even a year later, my mom passed away too.
Oh, shit. I'm so sorry.
That's brutal. It was sudden, and I barely had time to process losing my grandmother before my mom was gone too. I was 27, and suddenly I was all alone in this house, with no family nearby and no real game plan. I kept the lights on, barely. I've been working 2 jobs ever since: a full-time gig that pays about $36,000 before taxes, and a part-time side hustle when I can squeeze it in. My mortgage is about $1,100 a month and climbing, thanks to taxes and insurance, plus another $1,000 or more in utilities, maintenance, and all the other little fires that pop up when you're responsible for an entire house. Some months, I barely have enough left over for groceries and gas to get to work. Forget about saving. Forget about breathing room. Every day feels like a battle, just to not fall behind. And here's the kicker. The house isn't even officially mine. My grandma willed it to my mother. But even though it's still tied up in probate. Wow, what an interesting. So the house that the grandmother willed to the mother is in probate, and the mother passes away.
No, I think maybe that's what it means, or the mom received it and then after she passed, I don't know, maybe this person has a
Okay.
brother or something like that, but now it's in probate.
Okay. Okay.
Who knows? I
Who
This is
knows?
kind of a
Yeah. Yeah.
guess.
And this is why we love as much detail as you guys can fit in it. But this one's doing pretty well so far. Um, everything's tied up in probate. I can't afford a lawyer. I've tried to DIY the paperwork, but the system is very complicated and it's brutal when you're already stretched thin. Yeah, very true. To be honest, I'm scared. I want to sell the house because I know deep down that I'm barely holding it together. But then again, this voice in the back of my head screams, what if I never afford another house again? This market is already crazy. Prices are completely nuts. I already feel behind in life. That's something I want to touch on for sure. So I'm going to highlight that in my notes. But I already feel behind in life. Like I'm paddling upstream in a river that's only getting faster. Hmm. Selling feels like giving up on some kind of stability I might not ever go back to. To make it more complicated, I have a girlfriend. Oh, that's nice. She's amazing. Bonus. But she lives about an hour and a half away. She just landed this huge promotion in her city. Something she's worked her butt off for. So it's not like I can just crash on her couch or uproot her life to save mine. I'm exhausted mentally, physically, and I feel like every day I'm taking on water and eventually I'm going to sink if I don't figure something out. I don't even know what I'm asking for. Maybe just perspective. Maybe a game plan. Maybe just someone to tell me that it's okay to let go or to not feel like I'm failing everyone who came before me. Thank you for listening. From drowning in this inherited house's debt, but not dead yet. How about that? Well, first off, and I know Chris and I feel the same about this, we're so sorry for both of your losses. That's
Yeah.
so major. That's so sudden. And that's tough. That's really tough.
Yeah. So first off, what I want to say is just like major respect to you, man. It sounds to me like you're grinding hard, and it's that you said like you're not holding it together, but it sounds to me like you're holding it together under an insane amount of pressure. I don't know if I could make it through something like this. Like with my anxiety, man, I'd be on the floor. So it sounds like what you're doing is the right thing. Dominic, I know there was something that you wanted to talk about, and I think it was the I already feel like I'm behind in life thing.
Definitely. Definitely. I that comment alone kind of breaks my heart a little bit just because I hear it so often from so many people, young and old. And it comes from comparing your life to other people when other people, well, they're living different lives. Can't compare yourself to others. They don't have the same rules, the same cards you were dealt. I know it's like sometimes you feel it's like, well, I should be 27, married, have a house, and first kid's on the way already, and a good paying job with a pension. It's like, well, guys, life is tumultuous. Life is busy. Life is chaotic. Life is stressful. It's a lot of things. And I think it would be so boring to build out a life exactly, to have a life exactly how you planned it. Where's the fun in that? Where's the adventure in that? Where's the, your life is already structured based on society's rules and laws and, you know, all that stuff. And that's not really life. You're just kind of going through the motion. I'm gonna pass it back to you, Chris.
Yeah. First, I'm going to say you're not behind. You're 27 years old and you're going through it. You're not behind at all. When it comes to the probate thing, when it comes to everything you're at, it sounds to me like right now that probate thing is your number one priority. And it sucks. Probate sucks. Like that's the reason that we recommend as financial advisors getting a trust, getting the estate planning done. You don't do estate planning for yourself. You do estate planning for your loved ones so that they don't have to be where you are right now. It's not your mom's fault. she lost her mom, inherited the house. I'm sure she was going to get to it, but things just happened too fast. And I'm sorry that that is. So without clear ownership, it almost sounds to me like you're kind of trapped. So if I was you, I would explore low cost legal aid options, or even court self help centers. And I know it sucks because you're busy, you have all these things, but I don't even know if you have the ability. I do know you don't have the ability to sell the house that you're currently in because you don't own the house. Now you could leave the house, you could do all that stuff, but you're no longer going to have any deed to it. And who knows how long probate could be. I don't know at what point your mom passed away. Typically, at least here in Arizona, probate's 6 months to a year and a half till that comes over. And I don't even know if the house was in your mom's name, if it was still in your grandma's name. I don't know all that information. So it could take a long time. But I want to make this pretty abundantly clear. Right now, you're house rich and you're cash poor. And I think it's okay to recognize that, yes, this house may be a quote unquote asset, but right now it is currently a burden. And that burden is dragging you down more and more. Now, I know you said that the house payment's only like $1,100, so you will have to look and see what would $1,100 be able to purchase you for like rent somewhere else. Because $1,100 for an entire house and a mortgage is very low. But you also said there's another $1,000 in terms of upkeep and all these other things, which I have to assume that if it was your grandma's house, it was probably an older house, so it's probably got a lot more issues. So unfortunately, I really can't offer you that solution because I don't know what part of the country and I don't know any of that stuff. What I do want to say is selling does not mean that you're a failure. If you do get the house and you have the ability to sell, it could actually unlock your future. It can give you cash, peace of mind, and new options to be able to explore on your own. I know exactly how you feel. And I'm sure many of our audience members do, in that you finally have a house, you have a house in quotes that will be yours soon, and you don't want to let that go. You've attached to it. You feel like I can't let this go. This has been my house for family for generations, all of this stuff. And when will I ever be able to do it for my own, for myself? And that's the place that a lot of people are in. But I promise you, things always change. The only constant in life is change. Right now, the housing market's a shit show. The economy's a shit show. There's a lot of things that are just a shit show. And eventually things will change and you will be able to purchase a house. But right now, that house that you're in is drowning you. It's adding to all of the frustration, all of the fear, all of everything. You can rent for stability now and buy later when you're financially stronger. That does not mean you're a failure. That just means that you were patient, that you waited. You need to put on your own financial oxygen mask on at the moment, man, because it sounds like you're trying to balance everything. You need to stabilize you first before worrying about preserving your houses and your family's legacy. Because right now it sounds like you're working 2 jobs. You have a girlfriend that's an hour and a half away. You're trying to do all this stuff in order to make yourself happy and to live up to your mom and your grandmother, who, again, I'm sorry, but they're no longer here. You need to take care of yourself. You need to start running the real numbers. When you do get the house and you did sell, how much money would you take away versus how much money would you be paying in the mortgage, the monthly stress? What does relief actually look like for you if that was to go away? Those are things that you need to answer for yourself. And I think the biggest thing is you need to kind of do a reality check and don't anchor your decision around what's best for the family, what's best for the girlfriend. You need to build a solid foundation as to where you are right now financially. And right now you're so focused, so myopically focused on just surviving to the next day that you're not taking that 10,000 foot view. You're not able to see where you are because you're so focused on just keeping the house, just keep the house. And I think the house isn't about a house anymore. It's about holding on to your mom. It's about holding on to your grandma. And again, I'm so sorry that they're gone, but they were not that house. They live on in you. The house is just a house. It's just four walls. It's wood. It's brick. It's whatever it is. But the house is not them. And if the house is destroying you to stay in it, then it might not be right to stay in. Again, you have to make all those financial decisions. You have to look and see what would rent cost in other places. What would all these other things cost? But right now, it sounds like the house is drowning you. At the end of this, I just wanted to say that you're already doing the hardest part by facing it. But now it's about making strategic moves and getting out of survival mode. Because right now you're in survival mode and you need to be able to start to make moves from a 10,000 foot view that's going to get you to the place that you want to go. Because right now you're hoping that I can give you something and I wish I could. This is going to take time. The biggest thing is just please explore all your options when it comes to the probate thing. And if you do sell the house, which may be a good decision, may be the worst decision. I don't know. I don't know all the circumstances around there. But you're going to figure it out. And no matter what decision you make, move forward with your head held high and don't look back. Because you made the right decision for yourself at the time. And that was all that you could do. Don't resent the past. Move forward. Dominic, you got anything else?
No, I have nothing else. I have nothing else. I would also say make sure, and I know this sounds impossible, but make sure you just take at least 5 minutes for yourself just to breathe every day. Just sit down in a comfy chair and just take a deep exhale. Don't forget to recharge. And never give up, man. Never give up. The more you go down the path,
Arizona, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Big hugs from Arizona. And the more you go down the path, the more the path gets understood, and hopefully the path gets clearer soon.
Yeah, and only on that path, you can only see the way by looking back.
Yeah.
When you look back, you're like, oh, it's so clear the reason I had to go through all those things. It got me to this place. But when you're in it, it's like you're in a dark forest.
Yeah. And, use everything. Just use everything. And what I mean by that is like, if you were trying to create a character in a video game, right? You would want him to be the strongest, smartest, the wisest, the most emotionally stable. But how do you create that in the real world? You're going to have to go through things that are very difficult. You're going to have to walk a path alone sometimes. You're going to have to feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, crushing you sometimes. But make sure it doesn't crush you. Make sure that it makes you stronger than ever. Make this the reason your story is so grand that when you look back on it 15 years from now and be like, look, this could have crushed me, but I didn't let it. Use everything you can to benefit yourself in the best ways possible. And like Chris said, big hugs from Arizona. You got this. You know you got this. Just believe it. With that being said, we're going to be moving on to win of the week. And I gotta be honest, boys. I see the notes before we speak it. And I am excited to hear about your win of the week, Chris. What do you got for us?
So, like I said earlier, a few podcasts ago, my wife and I are going to be moving back to San Diego. So if you guys are watch our beautiful faces on YouTube or on Spotify on the video, you might see that my background is very, very barren back there because we have been packing up the house slowly or faster and faster, and now slowlier and slowlier because we're kind of getting to those few essentials. But we have secured our new home in San Diego.
Let's go.
We'll be renting for probably a long while. And, that's just the way that things are. But at least we're going to be back with family. But we have a nice place in North County, San Diego, only 15 minutes from my parents' house. Very well strategically placed with it near a few freeways and only about 10 minutes from the beach, 10 to 15 minutes from the beach. So very excited about all of that. So get my surfboards back and get to have a nice place that we're very, very ecstatic about.
It's awesome, Chris. I'm so excited. I feel like I'm moving too. I like shit. Where we going, Chris? Like shit. No, that's awesome. That is so freaking exciting. I love the fact that you're so close to your parents. I love that. And the beach, obviously, there's nothing better than being grounded with Mother Nature, sitting there on the beach, going for surfing and whatnot. I love it. I'm so excited for you. You always have good win of the weeks. I gotta say, I gotta step it up a little bit. But my win of the weeks are not bad either. Not as good, but not as bad. You know what? I'm happy with them. So my win of the week is I'm finally no longer sick in a major way. You might hear me, do one of those here every now and again for the podcast, but I'm no longer bedridden, so that's pretty awesome. So that's going to be my one win of the week. Also, I started hitting the gym again in a big way, trying out new machines, trying to really just mix it up a little bit. And, I was talking to Chris before the podcast, and sometimes when I hit new machines, new muscles get activated that, to be honest, really have never been activated. And if you know me, I don't do anything small, so I always like to go really hard. So last time I was at the gym, I was doing an overhead shoulder press, and I think I went a little harder than maybe I should have. I don't believe so. I went as hard as I possibly could, and that's the only way I'm going to do it. But my shoulders are literally purple. Not fully purple, but they look like I've been scratched by a cat, and the cat had like purple jam on its fingers. I don't know. It's really bizarre. But that, and I went to a networking event for entrepreneurs. And so those are my wins of the week. I had to put 3 together just to compete with the big man, Chris himself. So with that being said, guys, I hope you really enjoyed today's podcast. If you did, share it with someone, share it with a spouse, share it with a friend. If you want a good story time on your lunch break, that's what our viewer mailbag is all about. With that being said, guys, like, subscribe, follow, rate, all that fun stuff. I hate to harp on it, but it's the best way for us to grow our podcast. And we hope that you take what we say and actually use it, because let's be honest, education without action is just entertainment. We're the Five Guys.
Boom.
We'll
First
see you next
try.
time. Peace.
Later. This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.